My name is Shannon, and I will be showing you how to solve quadratic equations through the basic form, completing the square, and the quadratic formula. So the very first thing I'm going to show is the basic form. Now the basic form is ax squared plus bx plus c. Now a, b, and c are all numbers, and you set this equal to 0. The first example we're going to look at is x squared plus 5x equals 24. Now we want to get all of these on the same side. So we'll have x squared plus 5x minus 24 equals 0, which follows the basic form. Now I just minused 24 over on both sides. Now we're going to factor it. In order to factor, we have to find two numbers that's going to times to give me negative 24, and we're going to add up to give me 5. So let's look at the factors of 24. Now it'll be plus or minus 12 times plus or minus 2. And I just say plus or minus because this is a negative number. So one of these numbers has to be negative. So that gives me 24. And all of these numbers will give me 24. And then we have 6 times 4 plus or minus 6 plus or minus 4 is 24. And then we have plus or minus 3 times plus or minus 8 equals negative 24. So we can look at this and say, okay, now these two numbers have to add up to give me 5, but times to give me negative 24. So we can see that this is going to be the correct set of numbers. And since this is a positive 5, the 8 is going to have to be positive, and the 3 is going to have to be negative, because 8 plus negative 3 is 5. So factoring it out, it will be x minus 3 times x plus 8. At this point in time, we have these two brackets, and what we're going to do to find what x can be is we're going to first take x minus 3 equals 0 and solve for x. So you'll add 3 on both sides. So you will get x equals 3 as one of your solutions. And then you can also do this bracket, x plus 8 equals 0, and solve for x. So you'll minus 8, and that'll give you x equals negative 8. And these are your two solutions. The next thing I'm going to show you how to do is how to complete the square. So I'm going to show you the next example, which is x squared minus 8x plus 13 equals 0. Now, this can't factor very nicely. It doesn't factor like the last example we did. So the very first thing we're going to want to do, instead of having 0 on this side like we wanted before, we're going to minus this 13 over. So we'll get x squared minus 8x equals negative 13. So the very next step is we want to add something to both sides so that we can get a perfect square. So in order to find that number, what we're going to do is we're going to take 8, divide it by 2, and then square that number. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 squared is 16. So we're going to add 16 to each side. The next step is we're going to add this up and then make it so that we can factor. So we'll have x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals 3. Now we can factor this side of the equation. So what we're going to do is, since it's a perfect square, this is 8 and 16, we are going to do x minus 4 times x minus 4. Or you can simply write x minus 4 squared equals 3. So at this point in time, we are going to take the square root of both sides. Since this is squared, we want to be able to solve for x. So if we take the square root of this number, we will get x minus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 3. And then we can add this 4 over and solve for x. X equals 4 plus or minus the square root of 3. And that's your answer. I'm going to show another example of completing the square because not all of them are the same, and there are a few different things that you'll need to know about. The next example I'm going to do is 3x squared minus 12x plus 6 equals 0. Now, like in the last example, the very first thing that you want to do is minus the 6 over. So you'll have 3x squared minus 12x equals negative 6. Now, since this is not a 1 in front of the x squared, we want to factor the 3 out. So we'll have 3x squared minus 4x equals negative 6. And then we can complete the square like we did before, where we take 4 divided by 2 and then square it. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then 2 squared is 4. So we'll have 3x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals negative 6. And normally we would plus 4 on this side as well. But since this 3 is outside, if we were to distribute that 3 times 4, we would have to add 3 times 4 to this side instead of just 4. So 3 times 4 is 12. So you'll add positive 12 to this side. So you will get 3x minus 2 squared equals 6. The next thing that you'll do is you'll divide by 3 to get rid of it. So dividing by 3, each side by 3, you get x minus 2 squared equals 2. And then you'll do the same thing that you did on the other one, taking the square root, which will give you x minus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 2. And then you will solve for x by adding the 2 over. So x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 2. And that's your answer. Okay, the last example I'm going to show you how to do is using the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Now, you remember at the beginning when I showed you the standard form or the basic form, which was ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So these b's, a's, and c's match up with the numbers in this sequence. So the next example I'm going to show you is 3x squared minus 5x minus 1 equals 0. So we're going to start with negative b. Since b is negative 5, the negative of a negative number is positive. So we'll have 5 plus or minus square root of b squared. Negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. So we'll have 25 minus 4 times a, which is 3. 4 times 3 times c. c is negative 1 over 2a. So 2 times 3. So you will end up getting, simplifying, timesing these out, we'll have 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 minus 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times negative 1 is negative 12. So we're minusing a negative number, which is basically like adding it, over 6. The next step is to add up what's underneath the square root. So we had 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 plus 12. 25 plus 12 is 37 over 6. So we know that x equals 5 plus the square root of 37 over 6, and x equals 5 minus the square root of 37 over 6. I hope that was helpful. If you have any more questions on how to solve any problems, just message me or write a comment, and I will do the best that I can to help you out. Okay, thanks.